Good afternoon, everybody. We are officially kicking off week 4 of the Yarski Fantasy Football League, and it's been too long since we've all touched base. So I wanted to give a Yarski recap, or it will hence be known as the YarskCap. So I know the pun is terrible, but you're just going to have to fucking deal with it. So today we have a special guest to join me on our first annual edition of the YarskCap, Mr. Zachariah Earlbeck.
Let's go.
Who will bring in the beautiful Chris Collinsworth slide. Welcome, everybody, to the first annual YarskCap. Zach Earlbeck, how are you doing today after week 4 of the Yarski Fantasy Football League?
Fantasy football season. Doesn't get better than that.
So let's just start off with a brief overview of the league. What are your initial thoughts through week 4? How are you feeling about your team and the overall talk about everyone within the league? And I'll just preface this. As an end, I need to know your thoughts on the Josh and Bill impending feud. Ex-roommates, you lived in that household with those two. You have an insight unlike anyone else. Tell me what your thoughts about it.
It's honestly been the most surprising thing out of the year, right? I mean, all of a sudden we get Built. You know, he's got a good team, so he's pretty confident, feeling good. Axman team is on the other end, right? He's had a tough start, and Built is kicking the low man. He's kicking the man while he's down, and you know Axe. We talked before we started here. Axe has got the perfect comeback.
Yes, and he refuses to bring it out.
What's he waiting for?
And Josh, are you going to figure this shit out? I mean, 2 years ago, did you not play Built in the Yarski Championship and kick the living shit out of him?
You know, he can send that picture of Axe next to the Sacco, but he's got a picture of Axe holding the belt.
I mean,
should be the only.
Josh has the belt. How many years has Pooty finished last in the league and has still never tasted that beautiful sack, which we call the Jared? I mean, there's only so much we can truly do. I mean, you can talk all the shit you want, but so long as you win one game in week 15 or 16,
that's all that matters.
You are not the sack.
Yep.
But Josh, he does have that beautiful Yarski, and he has brought that baby home.
Yeah. And I'm surprised he hasn't brought it up. You know, Bilt's been kind of going at him. Trust me, I've been here for it. I've been loving watching it. But Bilt needs to, Axe needs to kind of bring that back up. That's that kind of squashes the feud.
And that's something that's beautiful. We're going to see in the weeks to come if Josh will eventually grow au pair, not the au pair that you want to bring to babysit your future kid, Josh, and bang, an au pair o' balls and talk some shit back to Bilt. So, we are slowly going to transition this Yarski recap into our few small sections just to overview the draft in the first 4 weeks of the year. So we're going to start off with what the foundation that so many people have bitched about. I'm talking to you, Taylor Pudens. Stop bitching about keepers. We're having them. You're getting Josh Allen next year. Shut the hell up. Zach, what's your favorite keeper from this past year?
Well, first I got to say, you know, I've heard a lot of people kind of message me on the side asking about the keeper thing, and I think that one's going to be up in the air next year. I don't know if a lot of people are happy about it. So it's probably too early to make a decision, but that's going to be a controversial decision towards the end of the year. People are not as happy with it as I expected. So that's going to be interesting. We'll have to see how that kind of goes.
That is for sure, yes. That is something that we'll have to make sure to bring up. But one of the key things is we need to make sure that is established at the draft, or else that affects how the next year's team is drafted.
Of course.
You never draft, for my personal sake, you never draft a player like J.K. Dobbins in the 8th round knowing he's a third stringer when you know that you cannot keep him the next year. So if we establish that prior to next year's draft, I am 100% on board.
Right. The hard part, too, is it'll even affect how people do rosters at the end of this year, too. So, you know, it's not ideal, but we should probably make a decision earlier than later. But, you know, people aren't sold on it.
They aren't thrilled. It was something we put to the league vote. I'm trying to be a commissioner of the people. It won the majority. People haven't been receptive of it. So our league is ever changing, and my job is to try and emulate the Yarski needs the best I possibly can. So with that in mind, your one favorite keeper, though we do have it, if you had one keeper, your favorite selection looking 4 weeks in, you had a good one yourself. Is that your favorite?
No, it can't be. So, you know, you said one. 2 of them really stick out to me. I think with Ross getting a basically top 5 running back in the 3rd round, I mean, that one's tough to argue with. So it'd have to be either Derrick Henry or, as much as I hate to say it, Built getting Russell Wilson, who's
Who? Mr. Unlimited?
who's just been he's been cooking.
He has been
Absolutely cooking this year. So, and he got him in what, the 11th round, I think?
I think it might have been like 13 or 14.
So those two are hard to argue with.
I would 100% agree. I actually was debating between two people, Calvin Ridley and Russell Wilson, but now that you bring up Derrick Henry, like Ross said at the draft, having that guaranteed top 10 running back in the third round to go with his top 6 pick and getting Kamara, he now has 2 top 5 backs the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That is going to establish his team as a juggernaut the rest of the year. So
Yeah,
I will actually give the tip of the cap to you because I think that is my favorite keeper looking back on it.
It really gives Ross just a total advantage. You know, everybody wants running backs, and everybody wants those upper echelon studs. Ross got 2 of them.
And you know what's beautiful is that Ross told us about this last year. He told us in his team name. His team name was This Is Easy.
It's easy.
And you know what? We were too short-sighted to not realize that this is a long-term play. Yes. And we now have technical difficulties, but here we freaking go, boys. Ross said, this is easy. And you know what? It was easy. The problem is he was playing the doctor's role. He had to wait to pay off those student loans, graduate med school, and then once he becomes a doctor, which is this year,
Just took him a while to get there.
he's taking us all to Pound Town, which hurts. But you know what?
Now, we're gonna talk about Ross in a minute, but for the record, I did beat Ross week 1. So
That is true.
it was by less than a point, but
You are just, and and Ross, you don't even have the excuse of the Titans being all COVID friendly, so we're not even going to go there. Okay, while we're on the topic of COVID, a brief conversation quick amongst the COVID situation that has been ongoing. Obviously, this is a trying year. It's always changing. So last week, the Titans and the Steelers both used their bye technically early. And so we didn't allow any roster construction or roster changes because they're projected to play the rest of the year as is. The Titans are now projected to play as of halftime of the Buccaneers-Bears game, which, by the way, fuck you, Sap, and your Tom Brady shit. But
who was not the best keeper, for the record.
no, that might have been the worst. But as of right now, the Titans and the Bills are scheduled to play on Tuesday. My initial reaction, and this is up to the vote of the league, but I talked with Zach, who also has a fellow Titan player, and it might be fair. So the idea behind COVID is that if a player's bye gets rescheduled, as was the case last week for the Titans and Steelers, it will be treated as a traditional bye. In the case of the Titans game being rescheduled this coming week, that would be a second bye, which obviously is not normal in a normal football season. Instead, but unfortunately, those players are not IR eligible.
Right.
The rules
that was one thing I suggested, but
the rules of ESPN do not allow you to put a player in the IR spot unless they are on the COVID list or are officially ruled out on a player's injury report. So what I am proposing is that players like Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown would be eligible to potentially just be dropped, and then you could pick up a player to replace that. However, those players that have been dropped under that designation because it was a second bye are not eligible to be picked up. As league commissioner, come this following Tuesday, I will be able to automatically reset those lineups and add back your Titans players that you have previously dropped. And then that's how we would kind of circumvent the system since ESPN's fantasy football format does not allow it. In the case of the Bills, if the case is this game was canceled to replace their bye, it would be treated similarly as the Titans and the Steelers game. So it would be treated as an early bye. Unfortunately, it's not planned, but this is COVID 2020, people. We got to deal with the shit that we're doing and fucking deal with it. I'm your commissioner. I'm embracing my Roger Goodell shit.
I mean, 2020 has been just madness, right? We not only this COVID has been we've got Jared who's 4-0. We've got Sap picking up defenses the very last minute. We've got Zach with no trades. I mean, 2020 has just been, unbelievable at this point.
Pooty with 4 trades? Where the hell is that?
Not only 4 trades, but I think he's 3-1 right now.
Oh my God.
Taylor Pooty, it's his league and we're just living in it.
There's something that has not yet happened in this league. There's 2 things that have not yet happened in this league. Yours truly has never, ever entered that beautiful place that we called the Sacco, where Jared's balls live in eternity.
Yep.
And Pootie's beautiful fantasy football team has never caressed the beautiful YarskCap playoffs.
Which is a perfect segue to our next section. We're going to talk power rankings here. So what we talked about was I'll give my power rankings, and we'll give Kirby's reaction, see what he thinks about the list I got.
So let's start it off with your top 6 teams. I don't know if you want to go from 6 to 1 or 1 to 6.
I think let's work backwards. Let's talk about the teams who right now look destined for the Sacco playoffs.
Oh, okay. We're going bottom to top. Let's hear it. Okay. I hope I don't hear my name too soon, but we'll see how it goes.
I think you can't start any Sacco destined teams without saying Axe and Sap right off the bat.
So let's just make this clear because there is a bottom for that last waiver spot. Who is your number 10 team?
It's got to be Axe, right?
It's got to be Axe.
It's got to be Axe. I know he's not going to like this, Axe, but you're 10 right now. Unfortunately, the squad just quite, I know you're trying to make Von Miller Lights great again. As of today, it ain't happening. So Axe is at the bottom, right? Sap comes in just this much behind him. Sap, you don't get too excited here. You're a 9 and you're not far away from 10. But to start 0-4, I think Bill said it's the first time we've ever had 2 teams start 0-4. And right now they're dogs to lose again right now, so they could be 0-5. So yeah, those 2 teams gotta be the bottom.
And I think I 100% agree with you on obviously the bottom 2. They're set in stone. No one's questioning about it.
No argument.
And the one thing that's the hardest thing about Josh, and while I agree with you, he's number 10. He did look. There was a key waiver period between Devontae Freeman and Mike Davis. I think Josh made the right decision going Mike Davis. He wanted the short-term play to get some wins.
Yep.
The problem is he's not getting any of those wins.
No.
He's had 2 weeks of Mike Davis with elite production and has 0 wins to show for it.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's potentially coming back not this week but the week after.
Right.
He doesn't get any wins. His window is closed, and the thing is, he might have to potentially look long-term for week 15 and 16.
And Axe would, I think when I look at Axe's team, he did the right thing by going Mike Davis, trying to buy a win, okay? And I think in his mind, he knew Le'Veon Bell was coming back. He was hoping to be 2-2 or something like that. Le'Veon Bell's back, and I don't know how much that's going to help him. He's going to lose Mike Davis here in a minute, and he's going to get Le'Veon Bell back, but I don't know if it's going to make enough of a difference.
I would 100% agree. He made the right decision with going for Mike Davis. Yes. He has been balling, but the thing is, it just hasn't translated to the wins. So in terms of the post-week 4 power rankings, he unfortunately is number 10, and Shane Sapp is number 9.
Yep.
Your number 8 team is?
Yeah, so after that, we've only got one team who's 1-3.
That is true. Are you willing to put that? That also, the 1-3 team is a defending champion.
Yes, and I had to factor that into the power rankings, but I think as we sit today, Kirby, you're the 8 team. I know that hurts to hear, but you're the 8 team. I think
the A team.
We have a whole history of you making the playoffs every single year. So smart money says you probably pull it off here, but as we sit today, Kirby, you're the 8 seed.
Okay. We'll take that into account. I'll remember that in the Logic Bank. And your last team, because we have a whole bunch of teams in the 2-2 log jam.
Yeah, so this was tough.
Who's the last one you have?
So this was tough. It came down to 2 teams for me. It was kind of Schultes and Kyler both right on that bubble, right? I think they're close. They both got a couple good things. They've both been just kind of decimated by injuries. Both their first-round picks, and both of these, I think, have been taken out by injury. So, I think I went with Kyler just sneaking into that Sacco playoff in the 7 seed. He's gonna get, I think, Michael Thomas back this week. That's gonna make a big difference. But I think right now, the lack of RB depth, I think that's got to slot him in at the 7th spot.
He saw a strong week 1 from Josh Jacobs, but the problem is, ever since that week 1 explosion, he has slowly been declining, and he's not seeing those touchdowns. Once he gets those touchdowns, he is a solid RB1, but he's not involved in the passing game, which is a true concern in a half PPR format. So I understand your concern.
Yeah, if he can get a little love out of Josh Jacobs and he gets Michael Thomas back, things look a lot rosier. But for right now, we got him just missing out on the playoffs.
And one other thing is he also has the San Francisco running back. Who is he? Raheem Mostert.
Mostert should
He
come
absolutely went off for him the first 2 weeks and then was struggling with injuries. Of course, he got injured week 2 after scoring about 20 points on my ass, so fuck you, Kyler, but we'll just go from there. Okay, so we know your number 6 spot is Schultes. Do you want to potentially go through 1 through 5, or how would you like to do that?
No, let's keep working our way up.
Okay, so we're at number 6. We have Schultes. Number 5.
Yeah, so, and real quick before I'm getting my list up here. So, real quick before we go on, Schultes just snuck over the bubble. And I think what did it for me was when you look at his team, his potential, he's lost McCaffrey, he's lost Devontae Adams. But when he gets those two back, you couple that with Mahomes and DK Metcalf, and I think he's got Zach Ertz. I think, he's going to be dangerous. So I think there's a lot of teams out there that are hoping that he loses a couple more games while he's battling with some injuries right now. So I think Schultz is dangerous, but with the way his team kind of at right now, I think he's probably the 6th seed.
Mahomes was definitely one of my under-the-radar favorite keepers, especially once he turned the luck of the draw, and he was the very last pick of the round. So I believed he got him at the very end of round 4 or round 5.
I think you're right.
And that was a game changer because I was looking at Mahomes as an early 3rd round pick potentially because I know how much upside he brings. And he absolutely is going off this year, and it's only going to get higher. So,
well, if you look at Schultz's draft start, he went CMC, and then I think he went Devontae Adams. And then I don't remember who he got in the 3rd round, and then Mahomes. So it's like he had potentially the top position players at running back, quarterback, and wide receiver. So, he's going to be dangerous.
He's getting positional advantages at every single one. And having Christian McCaffrey, that's pretty much having 2 running backs right there, one's healthy.
Exactly. So he's dangerous. So, the number 5, it's kind of a logjam in this neck of the woods, right? So I think Built is 2-2, and we had Pooty at 3-1, and I'm 3-1, and Ross is 3-1. So it's kind of a logjam, right?
Those 4 teams, right? Yes. So wait, are you implying that I might be foreshadowing something? Are you implying that Mr. Henkenius, our Tua times Sacco, might be number 1 in your power rankings?
No, I don't want to give anything away here.
Okay,
so we'll focus on number 5. I think it's got to be maybe not the surprise of the start of the Yarski, but probably the second most surprising is Pootie's hot start. 3-1, and not only is he 3-1, he comes out of the draft night saying, "I hate my team." I hate my team. And now he just, Josh Allen makes him look like a genius at this point.
Josh Stallion, baby.
Josh Stallion. Pooty, Pootie's probably going to get a Stallion tattoo at this point if he gets him out of those Sacco playoffs.
Oh my.
Because right now, Pooty is sitting pretty, 3-1. He's got a good team. I think he, right now, as a 3-1 team, he's in a tough division. That's the other thing we didn't talk about is the Busch Light division is brutal.
It's a little bit tougher than the good old Natty, but
brutal.
The Natty goes down so much smoother, boys.
I mean, we got Axman, who's kind of evening us out a little bit down at the bottom, but the top 4 teams, I think the top 4 scoring teams are all in the Busch Light division.
That might be an exaggeration, but we can fact check that post.
Check me on that. So I'm going to go Pooty 5.
And one thing I will compliment Pooty on, he identified early on, I believe in week 2, he had a lack of running back depth, and he was worried about a potential injury. He experienced that injury with Nick Chubb, but he also made good systematic trades.
He was prepared.
He was pro-aggressive. Even before injuries happened, he acquired Jerick McKinnon for Dion Lewis, noticing that Sapp picked up the backup to Giants. Sapp wanted the Giants running back, so Pooty took advantage of that, got McKinnon. All of a sudden, over the past few weeks, he's got a top 10 running back, which has been vital.
And can we talk about that trade?
Yeah.
We're gonna kind of pause on power rankings to talk about that trade.
I'm sorry, but I guess we had one small segment of the most lopsided trade, and looking back in retrospect, I think it's a clear no-brainer. It's got to be the McKinnon for Dion Lewis.
It has to be. And to be honest, I kind of forgot about it. It kind of went, at the time, it kind of went unnoticed. Everybody was like, oh, look at Pootie's trading. But then when you look at it now, it's like, boy, what was Sapp thinking?
I mean, he's sitting there in the one. It would be one thing if Devontae Freeman wasn't signed, but
Right.
Sapp already acquired Devontae Freeman higher in the waiver wire order.
Yep.
He should have known that it's like, hey, this is my guy. That's the primary running back.
Yep.
Instead, he wants extra insurance and policy to have the Giants running back, but unfortunately, the Giants running back, Saquon Barkley, he did nothing in 2 weeks as the Giants running back. What do you think that Devontae Freeman or Dion Lewis is going to do?
And, I haven't looked at it close enough, but that trade, if Sapp has McKinnon these past couple of weeks, that could have made the difference of getting a win or not, getting him out of that over category.
I know, but then, in all retrospect, we wouldn't have had our history of having two 0-4 teams. So there's a reason we bring this all together.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying, boy, when you look back at that trade, it's about as lopsided as a trade as we've seen in a long time.
I mean, until last year when we did the Marquise Hollywood Brown for Tyreek Hill, but we can worry about that later.
No, that's old news. Let's
let's go back to our power rankings. Number 4, Zach.
Yeah, so let's recap here quick. So in the Sacco playoffs, we had Axe and Sap, right? Pretty clear
Yes.
bottom feeders. Okay, we had you bringing in at 7, and then we had Kyler rounding out kind of the Sacco playoffs. Just missed it.
Yep.
Then in the playoffs we had Schultes and then Pooty.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that leaves us 3 more teams.
We have 4.
4 more teams.
Good try counting, but that's why I'm a counting major.
So I think the way I went after this was I went with myself as the 4 seed. I'm 3-1, but if you really dig into it, I was an inch in week 1 to Kamara. I don't know if Ross remembers this, but Kamara was this close to scoring a touchdown right at the end of the game.
A Zach Erlbeck dick length.
Yes, it was total garbage time, but Kamara probably should have scored. They reviewed it and took it away. Okay, and I end up winning by basically 1 point. So right there, I basically should have lost that game. And then I played Bill 2 weeks ago, and I'm probably dead in the water. And then Mark Andrews drops a touchdown, and I walk out of there squeaked out a win. So I kind of gotten away with 2 wins, and I'm at 3-1. So I got myself at the 4 seed right now.
That does make sense. I do like your team overall. Clyde Edwards-Helaire so far almost looks like the steal of the draft. You did pass Alvin Kamara for him, but obviously, given that time, there was an uncertain contract situation and so much unknown that you can only do so much. But
yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's got so many carries in the red zone area. I feel like positive touchdown regression is coming.
That's what I'm hoping. It's easy to look back at the draft and say, oh, look, Zach's an idiot. He should have taken Kamara there. But
yes.
At the time, he was dealing with a contract dispute. He was getting shots in his back. Same with Dalvin Cook. He was in the middle of a contract dispute. So I said, you know what? Let's roll with CEH. I agree right now he hasn't been the 5th pick or wherever I was at. But I think he's going to come around. I'm pretty happy with that.
I would trade so many things to do it, especially given how I drafted Kenyon Drake in the 2nd round. So I am definitely not the one to talk, though I am the defending YarskCap champion and your commissioner. So let's go to the number 3 team.
So number 3, it pains me to say this, but Jake Bill's got a good team. He's 2-2, but he's got a good team.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's really hard to admit, but Bill's got a good team. So I've got him slotted in at the 3 team. He's really dangerous. He's deep in all spots. He's got Russell Wilson, who is absolutely cooking. We've already kind of touched on that. So Bill's deep.
It's a good thing Bill's football team is deep because he's not getting deep into any women lately.
He's going to park that Big Mac truck right in that tiny garage.
I believe he has the most points of the league, doesn't he?
I think so, too. Yeah, he scored the most points. He's only 2-2. I think both times he's lost, he's scored the 2nd most points. I think when I played him, he scored the 2nd most points and lost. And I think his other loss came when he scored the 2nd most points. Maybe not.
No, he scored the most points last week, and I scored 2nd most and lost. I do recall that.
That's what it was. So yeah, Bill's got a good team, and it kind of pains me to say it. So I would say Bill, we've got him at the 3 seed. Okay, so who's that leave us?
We got Ross and Jared, your 2 leaders of the division. The division leaders with the buys currently as it stands. Mr. Ross Clucky with the RB heavy team, but Jared Henkenius, he's got Aaron Jones steamrolling his team to a high team. Just made a trade for some extra running back depth. But traded away Lamar Jackson. So who do you give the number 2 spot?
So I really like Ross's team. I think I'm gonna. And I hesitated that, it kind of comes down to two teams at the top, 2 really good teams. But I went with Ross at the 2 seed. We've talked about how much I really like his team. I think losing Julio is a big loss. I think he's going to miss Julio. Who knows how long he's out for. Maybe it's just a short stint, so he could get away with it. But you look at Ross's his top-heavy team, Kamara, Derrick Henry, Julio, Amari Cooper. He's had Deshaun Watson kind of struggling a little bit, but he's pretty top heavy, and it's a good team. So Ross is going to be dangerous. So I already kind of mentioned this too, but Ross is 3-1, and he's this many yards away from Kamara scoring another touchdown and being 4-0. So I've got Ross at the 2 seed right now.
And so Jared as your number 1 seed. What in the world has the world come down to? The Tua times Sacco.
Yeah, 2020's been crazy. If anybody would have bet that Jared would have been 4-0, I would have laughed at their face probably, right? Jared had a good draft, don't get me wrong, but with a two-time Sacco on your record, nobody would have expected him to come out 4-0.
I mean, maybe this is the year of destiny. Maybe he goes from being the Sacco is going the 0-14 year to a 14-0 year. I mean, it's plenty early. He's
0 to hero,
4-0.
baby. 0 to
you
hero.
You never know, but
yeah,
that is the beauty of the YarskCap Fantasy Football League. You never know what we're gonna have.
So that for me is power rankings right there. So I don't know if you would have any changes there.
I have just a few small changes. I think the only area that worries me a little bit is I think I might have Mr. Ross Clucky, Mr. Looking Ahead guy. I think I might have in the number 1 slot.
Yeah,
the number 2
I totally
slot,
understand
I
that.
might have you in the number 2 slot.
Really?
Between you and Bill, I think you guys have very balanced teams, the 2 and 3. Jared, I have slotted number 4. The Packers have had a whole bunch of success. I worry about having a quarterback and running back on the same team. And you never know because I believe they have a more difficult remaining schedule the rest of the year compared to some of the other squads. So, yes, they've feasted on some good wins right now, but Aaron Rodgers has something to prove once they drafted Jordan Love.
Yes, absolutely.
So that is one thing that definitely could be the case.
And the question is what does Aaron Jones look like when Devontae Adams comes back, right?
Yes.
I don't think Aaron Jones is what he's been so far this year when Devontae Adams is in the lineup. I think it's a totally different Aaron Jones. I think we saw that last year. I think we'll see it again this year too. So that's definitely going to take the ceiling off of Jared's team, I think.
Yep, and I think other than that, I think I agree with you. The rest of the way, the only flip-flop I would have, unfortunately, it leaves me in the Sacco, but I would flip Kyler and Schultes. I like Kyler's team just a little bit more, but like you said earlier, it was a toss-up.
A toss-up, yeah. I think Kyler also has a good team. Schultes has got a lot of firepower if he's healthy.
Yes, for sure. And so that's overall our Week 4 power rankings. We're just going 4 weeks through it. We're just making this shit up as we go, boys.
You have to let us know if you guys agree, disagree. You have to let us know kind of what your thoughts are and what your power rankings would be.
And you know what? This is the first time we're trying to pull this bullshit off. I mean, I came back to Carroll because I'm going to go get drunk as fucking Boji tomorrow, and I happen to be in town. Zach and I were bored. We felt like we haven't been as engaged. We haven't done our weekly power rankings like we've usually done. Work's been a bitch, so...
Basically what we said is we needed more Yarski. We needed more fantasy football. I'll try to stir the pot a little bit. We'll kind of prod and poke Bilt and Josh to keep that feud going. Trust me, I want to keep that fire burning hot because I've enjoyed every second of it. So I think we got one last. If you got anything else to say, go ahead. But I think we got one last segment before we wrap this up.
One last segment. I'm just gonna call it I'm calling my shot here. The upset of the week. No one's gonna see coming. I'm just looking at every single team who is all favored, and I'm going to go with one of our 0-4 teams to pull off the upset this week. I'm looking at the matchups. I'm looking at each individual player, and you know what? This is tough to say.
Yeah, when you told me this one, I said, boy, that's a bold call, Kirby.
I like the Von Miller Lights.
The 0-4 Von Miller.
The 0-4 Von Miller Lights to down a 6-pack and demolish the shit out of the Team Schultes. Do I have some incentive behind this? Yes, I am fighting Team Schultes for a playoff spot. But I'm also looking at the Von Miller Lights. They picked up Mike Davis 2 weeks ago, have yet to get a win. I find it hard to believe that 3 weeks of Mike Davis with going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who cannot guard Zach Erlbeck running around an end around. I mean, granted, thank God it's not Josh trying to run an end around because he'd be getting caught from behind like the million times before. But I think, luckily, with Mike Davis going against Atlanta, I love the pickup of Hunter Renfrow going against Kansas City. They're going to be playing from behind. Las Vegas, their top 2 receivers are potentially injured. You're going to be playing a lot of catch-up. I like the upside of those potential players. And I just think it's crazy. I think this team might be due for a win. And so I'm calling that my upset of the week for week 5.
Let me read you Josh's scores the last 4 weeks here. So he scored 90 points the first one. Probably not enough to get it done. Then he scored 72, 76, and then 105. So if he's going to win, he's going to need to score over 100 points.
He definitely is. I mean, there's certain times where teams need to go off. I mean, I know personally looking at my scores, I believe I've scored under 102 weeks and over 130 the other 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I was only 1 and 2 in those big scoring weeks, but that's the beauty of fantasy football. So much of it is touchdown dependent. Those first 2 weeks for Josh, he didn't have Mike Davis, and I know the last 2 weeks Mike Davis has gone off, so I'm sitting here calling my early upset that Josh is going to pull off the upset against Schultes.
And I hope you're wrong. I'll be honest with you, because I keep texting Josh. I say, what's the thoughts going on, bud? Your team doesn't look so hot. You want to do a deal. You need to inject some life. Kirby was 1-3. He tried to inject some life into his team. I said, ask. Come on. Let's talk. Let's talk some trades. And he says, no, team's fine. The team's fine. We're going to turn this around. So I'm kind of afraid he's going to go down with this ship. I send him the gif where the dog is sitting there drinking the coffee and the house is burning down. I think right now that's what's going on over with the Von Miller Lights.
His house might be burning down, but that's just because he's had 2 successful fantasy football players leaving the house. There's only so much he can be left with. So hey everyone, here is our first recap of the YarskCap, or whatever the fuck we called it earlier. I don't even remember.
I like it.
There's only so much we can do. We're hoping in the future that we can bring on some potential guests. Luckily this week we were able to do it together, but in the future we might be recording via Zoom and trying to bring in some special guests. If there are any other suggestions you guys might have for the show,
segments, like you said, questions. Maybe if they send in some questions you want us to discuss,
oh yeah,
we'd be happy to do that.
And going forward, I apologize, I did not have my beautiful Yarsky belt. That was very short-sighted of me, but I am your commissioner and your league champion, so I will be better. So cheers everybody.
Peace.